Hi folks, my name's Tom. You're watching Rant District. I made a recent change to my audio gear, so I figured I'd slap together a video and just kind of show my audio system in its current state. Let's take a look. In the immortal words of Aaron, the metal theologian, your stereo should be in your living room. And I agree with that concept. I think it's part of it's part of life. So why not have it be in a living room? Now the TV is not hooked up to the stereo. My better half does not like fiddling with controls and whatnot to try to watch television. She watches more TV than I do. So the stereo's not hooked up to the TV, which is fine by me. Television is not my primary form of entertainment. So the speakers. First of all, the speakers are Zoo Audio Dirty Weekends. That's the name of the model. They typically they put these out. They build them to order 2 or 3 times a year, and they're like 3 feet tall. They're pretty sturdy. They're like 50 some odd pounds each. 12 ohm speakers, very sensitive. 97 dB speakers, and they build them to order. So I ordered them with the rustic hickory finish and the best capacitor they could put in there, which was a Jupiter copper capacitor. So it's a little bit more than I want to spend on audio gear, but theoretically this is my last pair of speakers. I know famous last words. So the little little basket in there is because I have a very small one. My dog is very small and blind and deaf, and he likes getting wedged into spaces, and that's why I've also got some foam stuck in between there, and why not stick records in there so he can't walk behind there, because he gets in there, and until you tap him on the butt, he forgets how to walk backwards and get out. So he gets stuck in places. So anyway, the speakers are outstanding. They a big plus for me is they sound fantastic at low volume. I don't listen at very high volumes, but just at low volumes, they're warm, they're full. They sound good to me. Records in the on that old Calyx in the middle. That's not all of my records. I do have a goal. It's a loose goal, not a strong goal, of getting down to, my collection to like just fit in those 8 cubes. That can be roughly 500 records, and I think that's a good number of 12-inch records to have. Anyway, we'll see if that ever happens. And my collection's not that bad right now. I've got like 4 other cubes full in another room, so it's really only 12 cubes full of 12-inch records. And I don't have a lot of 45s, but I would like to get deeper into 45s. I think that's where my growth will be in the future. So anyway, let's get down to the stereo itself. All right, so let's start with the turntable. This is a Technics. It's an SL1200 Mark II. It's in fantastic condition. It's got the original rubber mat. It's not terribly old. I think when I searched the serial number on it once, I think this was circa 2005 was when this particular one was built. I really do like direct drive. But the really big thing I value is removable head shell. So this particular cartridge is that's on here is an Audio-Technica VM540ML cartridge. It's a stereo cartridge, moving magnet. I love the way it sounds. It's about as pricey. Again, famous last words, for me anyway. It's about as pricey as I want to go on a cartridge. But the big thing I like about this turntable, and something that I really, really strongly value in a turntable, is that the head shell is removable. So, yeah, this is what I use to play stereo records. But I have some older records that are in mono, and so when I want to play a mono record on this separate head shell, I have a what is this? An AT Mono 3 LP. It's got the guard on it. AT Mono 3 LP moving coil mono cartridge. It's a high output cartridge. So, being that moving coil cartridges often are low output, meaning you really need to jack the volume way up to hear them, and or you have to have the right phono stage, or at least a step-up transformer to raise the output. I like that it's because it's a high output cartridge, it's very easy for me to swap cartridges when I want to play a mono record, and then when I want to get it off and put the stereo one back on. All I have to do after I swap the cartridges is I know the tracking force to change to. I use like 1.95 grams at the for the stereo cartridge, the moving magnet stereo cartridge, and 2.6 grams of tracking force for the mono cartridge. And then beyond that, I just adjust the anti-skate accordingly. I just pretty much set it to the same value as the tracking force, and that's really all I adjust when I change cartridges. So it's quick bang bang thing for me, and I dig that. Moving on to the amplification and preamplification. This is the new piece. To me, it's a Sphinx, a Rogue Audio Sphinx integrated amp 3. So what is it? They refer to it as the Sphinx version 3. I do like the simplicity and the layout, and that it's an all analog. It's an analog integrated amplifier, and I'll get into more of that at the end. That's the newest piece, and I'll talk more about that at the end. My CD player is I've had this for quite a long time now. It's a Rant CD 5004. It's got I want to say it's got very good channel separation. There's something about it. I can't remember if it was twin DACs or twin outputs of some sort to keep good channel separation. Anyway, blah blah blah. It wasn't terribly expensive, and it's held up well. And for cassettes, that's my old Nakamichi CR3A. It's a 3-head tape deck. That's without going way into the stratosphere as far as price goes. I think 3-head is probably the best sounding one. You don't get quite the convenience of having 2 decks in there, at least for me. Like if I wanted to transfer one tape to another, but then again, I don't listen to a shit ton of cassettes. And then my headphones are Sennheiser HD6XX. They're from the Drop website, where they have modified versions built to spec by manufacturers for a good price. So, if my girlfriend's watching television, I just plug in the headphones and I listen that way if it's not something on the TV that I want to watch. So if you can get a sense there, the Rogue, the integrated amp, is slightly off center. It's set to the left, and that's because my speaker stand, and don't quote me on who makes the stand, I think it's VTI, these shells all individually lift off. They're very heavy, very sturdy. Like this thing is rock solid, and it's got it's 3 legs essentially. You got the the 2 front legs, and then for stability, you can see that post there in the back. That's the 3rd one. Now, what I didn't think about is this amp is so deep that and for the location of the connectors in the back, I can't get that thing centered. So it irks me. It really does irk me. I really don't want to replace this stereo stand because I really like it. But like I was very close to returning this amp after I got it. Just like it's a stupid thing to be irked about, but it irks me. But I really like the amp, so I am going to keep it. Oh yeah, one thing I didn't talk about was cables. So for the integrated amp and the CD player, those have removable power cords. So I have those changed out instead of the generic cords to a Pangea upgraded power cord of some sort. It's not terribly expensive, and theoretically it helps it sound better. I haven't A-B'd them, but it's just kind of a peace of mind that I'm probably getting what I'm paying for sound-wise. The other cables, the speaker cables and the interconnects, the RCA cables, are generic. I think the speaker cables might be monoprice, and the interconnects maybe just Amazon's. I will probably upgrade those shortly. An upgrade is kind of a loose word to some cables, speaker cables and interconnects made by Blue Jeans Cables. Blue Jeans is a U.S.-based company, and they make affordable quality cables. So I'll probably just get those just to be safe without, upgrading the cables without overspending, and just having at least some peace of mind that I'm getting the most of what I can, price commensurate with the cost of the gear I have. So, figure I give the Blue Jeans cables a try. You really can't go wrong with BJs. This Rogue Sphinx version 3, Rogue Audio Sphinx integrated amplifier version 3. It's got, that's the infrared sensor, power button, headphone jack. You have 3 inputs. It's got a built-in phono stage, and then 3 other analog inputs. Got a balance control and a volume control. So I think it's an Alps volume potentiometer in there. The amp itself is 100 watts per channel into 8 ohms. My speakers are 12 ohms. They do match well. Going back, I was talking about the Blue Jeans cables being made I think they're in Washington State. So the Zoo Audio speakers are made in Ogden, Utah. That's another U.S.-based company, and this Rogue integrated amp is made, I think it's in Broadhead, Pennsylvania. So I have tried to go U.S. made where possible, just to look out for the economy in the country in which I live. It's not always possible. My philosophy is to, U.S. companies or local companies always get first consideration, but if the value isn't there, I don't owe them anything, and I will buy stuff from overseas. Do it all the time. The value has to be there. I'll pay a little bit more for U.S. made if it's quality, but not. I'm not going to go broke just to stimulate the economy and destimulate my own economy. Anyway, blah blah blah. So this is the headphone amp is a discrete MOSFET based headphone amp. Sounds great. One of the things I like about this amp is its green power, theoretically. The highest amount of energy it'll use is 250 watts, and that's pretty low. Not to get too political here, one of the things I kind of bemoan about our country, and by our country I'm talking about the United States, is that we don't really ask ourselves to conserve, to really conserve. And when I was a little kid, in the late 70s, there was, we were in the energy crisis, conserving gasoline and, grandparents and great-grandparents before that did a lot of conservation during world wars. We just consume, and, electricity-wise anyway. And nobody's asking us to, no Democrat or Republican president or whomever is trying to lead the way to conserve on electricity, and that's a shame. I'm not a tree hugger, but I believe in doing the right things in life. It's a partial factor in me not buying a shit ton of brand new records. Brand new records waste, depends on your version of what your meaning of waste is, but they require a lot of they use a lot of water because those presses need steam. So you're talking about a tremendous amount of heat, tremendous amount of water being boiled off, and the record itself, it's plastic, so you're using fossil fuels for that. So I've always had preference for used records anyway, but that kind of thought process kind of steers me that way as well. So anyway, we got 5-way speaker binding posts. I use banana plugs on my cables. You can put whatever cable you want in there, so I use an upgraded cable. Here's the inputs. Now, one thing that I feel is like a little bit chintzy is the phono ground. It's got a built-in phono preamp, but like having this little screw for the ground instead of like something that's easy to turn by hand seems a little odd to me. You got the phono input, and then the 3 analog inputs, and then you got fixed and variable outputs if you want to use a subwoofer or an external headphone amp or what have you. And the back is pretty simple. So let me crack open this thing and show the inside. All right, so actually before I open it, let me talk about the beefs I have with this amp. The first was the phono ground on the rear of the panel. The second part is the headphone jack. So if I put the headphone jack in there, if you can see, that thing kind of wiggles in there. And I feel like for the price of this thing, it really should be rock solid. So I haven't really taken a closer look at why that thing moves around a lot. And then beyond that, the case is completely screwed down. The screws are all as tight as they should be, yet still you can hear that kind of rattle. You can jiggle it just slightly. I mean, the case really should be rock solid on there. Now, granted, this Rogue Audio is a fairly to me, it's a higher end audio component company, and this is their basic integrated amp. So, but just those the screw, the little screw thing for the ground, I can kind of see, but like the headphone jack jiggling a little bit and the case not being immobile once it's all screwed down, that's a little odd to me. Anyway, all right, so I've popped the cover off this thing. Let's take a look inside. And I guess I should take a look at that little headphone amp thing there. Well, the housing on it is solid. It's just the interior jack. Seems a little loose. I guess it's fine. So here's what this thing looks like on the inside. It's I like the simplicity of the inside. So I'm coming to this. What was it? I used to have a Harman Kardon 730. A receiver, so it had a built-in AM/FM tuner and whatnot. So, and that thing had circuit boards all over the place. So, and the sound was quality was slipping, and just the amount of disassembly and the number of capacitors in there that would have needed replacing. And my soldering is for shit, and I'm not an electrician or electronics guru. I can solder 2 things together if I need to, but it's going to be ugly. But so finding a repair person to fix that and is just kind of getting away from me. And they're just not to be found in this area. So anyway, let's take a closer look on the inside. So here's the tubes for the preamplification. 12A U7s. I just left the stock tubes in there. Everything sounds great. I haven't done any tube rolling. Stuff isn't really broken, so I don't want to try to quote-unquote fix that. Here, if we look straight down, you can adjust. This is the phono stage. 1 channel here and 1 channel here. So you can adjust these little switches here And there's a switch in here somewhere. Basically, you can adjust the loading and the gain depending on the type of cartridge you have. So one of the big selling points for this thing was a supposedly really great phono stage, and it is the best that I've had. My records sound better than they ever have. Now, keep in mind, you can adjust the gain and the loading, which is all well and good, but another thing to consider, if you were getting into this, something like this, if you change cartridges a lot, there's 10 screws that 3 in the front, 3 over here, and then 2 each on the side. So there's 10 screws you have to remove to adjust the phono capabilities. So if I had keep in mind I've got my stereo cartridges moving magnet, and the mono one is moving coil, but it's high output moving coil. So I do not need to adjust the gain. I don't have to adjust the loading for either of those either. So I like switching cartridges. That's part of how I enjoy music. However, that's where having a turntable with a removable head shell, so I can easily swap cartridges, that's a benefit. But if I was switching cartridges as often as I do, when I pull out a mono record and then put a stereo one back on, if I didn't have a high output moving coil cartridge, and I had to get into here, like I had to take off 10 screws off the cover, unplug everything, adjust the dip switches, that's kind of a no-fly zone for me. But this sort of thing is really, really good if you only keep one cartridge on your turntable. You don't have a removable headset. You're just you're a normal person who just likes one cartridge. Whatever the loading requirements of the cartridge are, you just set it once and be done. That's pretty awesome. Got anyway, power is huge toroidal transformer, and I didn't mention this. It shoots over to 2 Hypex based power modules. So this is a Class D amp, which people like to call Class D. They like to call them digital amps, but it's not a digital amp. This is an all analog integrated amp. There are no digital inputs, and the Class D is switching amplification. It's I'm not an electrician, but it has to do with converting the analog signal into a pulse wave modulation wave that just kind of causes the power to switch on and off in rapid, crazy rapid succession. It sounds great, particularly paired with the tube preamplification. So, and when you're talking about Class D, with these modules, that's what makes this thing super efficient. And that's why it doesn't use that much electricity compared to other amps. It's Class D amplification, is about 90 some odd % efficient. Like most of the electricity used actually goes to amplification. Whereas, with a Class AB, which is what most, receiver or integrated amps are, it's probably about, and I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass because that's what I do, but it's probably about 60%, 50 to 60% efficient because of, it generates heat, and heat is a power loss. And Class A amplification, which, is probably going to be the best sounding, has massive loss. Those get hot, they will burn you sometimes if you touch a Class A amp. They're not very efficient, so a lot of the electricity, a lot of the power is lost to heat. So anyway, very efficient amp. Very good sounding, like the detractors, which is the, everything just kind of, all these connectors being right in the middle, which I didn't think of when, I've got my, here's the middle for me, on my stereo stand, which is like a stool. It's 3 legs, so it's as stable as you can get. But that's where that middle leg is, so this bangs up against it, so I have to shift it over. So anyway, it's a keeper. You know, I hesitated on it at first, you know, with because like my first impressions were like the headphone amp being a little wiggly, the case being screwed down, you know, snugly, but still having a little play in it, and then that screw for the phonoground. So, but you know, the efficiency, the sound quality, it's 100 watts per channel and 8 ohms, and I've got you know 97 dB speakers over there. They're super efficient. So this is way more power than I need, but uses way less electricity than I was using. And don't, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. You know, it's more of a philosophical thing for me, because in the scheme of things, your stereo's not using that much electricity. Even if you have a higher wattage receiver, but save it where you can is what I'm trying to say. All right, so anyway, that's the state of my stereo system as of today. What's today? October 16th, I think. Maybe. It's definitely 2021. You can quote me on that. Take that to the bank. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later.